This is Nick's forward, and now I got everything, got it scored away and stream it up in Facebook and YouTube with my new streaming service. So pretty cool. Anyways, anyways, talk about is contract. I'm looking around at some different stuff. Anyway, so I was kind of new as I had this streaming thing. Anyway, today I'm talking about contracts and what a big deal they are. If you're a seller, they're a big deal. If you're a real estate agent, mortgage broker, contracts are a big deal. And one thing about contracts is that if they're not written right, you're pretty much screwed. Now, the problem is with a real estate agent, they're not an attorney. So a lot of times the training is pretty bad because most managing brokers of offices or designated brokers, broker owners, whatever, don't know the contracts as they are. I'd say most don't. If I tell of 100 broker owners or designated brokers of offices, there might be 2 or 3 that actually know what the hell they're talking about. Most of them don't. They don't know the first 3 or 4 or 5 pages of a sale agreement. They don't know the finance part of it, which gives me 1 pages. They don't know a lot of stuff about the addendums, or there's a whole variety of other addendums, environmental addendums, which are a new popular one. Just a bunch of stuff they add on. Whole light utilities addendum. They don't know how to write up addendums on a blank addendum. And there's a bunch of other stuff depending on what kind of deal. If you're doing an option buy, or you're doing a backup deal on one, a backup addendum, you're doing an escalator clause. I mean, there's just a whole mess. When you time to do your paperwork now, you've got a whole bunch of them. Agency agreement addendum, might be an NDA attached. I mean, a whole ton of stuff. But now I'm going to give you a story I want to talk about because I'm upfront about it, and no one's going to tell you anything about how to get yourself squared away. When I got fired my 7th month in my first real estate job, I get to the office, I start, and I get there, and the broker, he got fired in the first month that was there. There's this other broker a couple months later who worked in the office, who was a complete idiot. And basically what it is, it was the 7th month. Actually, it was my 6th month. It was December, so I started in June. And I was number 1 on the board out in front. I did 9 deals in a month. So, and I did that all off the phone. Okay, I was a prospecting Muldoon. And basically, I and deal myself because I sold it to a buyer I picked up on an FHA loan. But the problem is that advice from my broker basically had about a $3,000 credit for an FHA loan. And basically, even though I had it initialed off, the problem is they didn't have really a good financing addendum back in the day in Seattle, Northwest Multiple Listing Service, and that's pretty lame. Not like it is today. Well, it's still lame today, but there's still a lot of problems with it, but it's a lot better than it was. It's for the broker, not the agent. That's how contractors set up. But anyway, I go to my broker, ask him this question. I needed this, get them both initial, this, and this, but I did it on the front page of the the front page of the purchase and sale agreement. The old day had a base area where it says where you're going to add for basically a credit, basically for closing costs, and that used to do that back in the day. Anyways, he gave me some wrong advice, and so I had 9 deals, and basically it was about about $30,000 in commissions because I was on a BS fit, so it was like 60-40 then. 60-40. After that, I would have gone to 100% after all these deals. But so anyways, so they screwed up, and the sellers didn't like what they saw, said they didn't authorize it, blah, blah, blah. So they threatened me. I had reception. One assistant secretary of the office threatened me. She's a real now, but she's terrible. She's incompetent. Even though she's been doing it a while, she's still incompetent. She's still in the Puget Sound region. But anyway, she was threatening me. I was threatened by the broker, or the assistant broker. It was bad. I got in the corporate office, they were me, so they fired me. Well, when I got fired because they gave me, and because of the manager at the time of the office didn't know what he was doing because he was incompetent. Basically, I only got $100 out of about the $30,000 worth of commission. So basically, I was broke. So they took all my money. And the thing is, I didn't have a course, didn't really do anything wrong. And so they fired me, did this, and this, and that. But I learned a bunch of lessons on that. If there's any change in that contract in the front page, not just write it on an addendum, which is good, which basically nullifies that. What you need to do is write a whole new front page again. It becomes a new contract, but do it. It's better to have a clean contract, new front page if you're going to make a change on the page of a contract. Adding an addendum is one thing. It's not as good as doing a new front page. You can do that. A lot of agents do that. But crossing something out, and basically what I did is cross something out and added something else because the broker told me to, and I got fired for it and lost out basically about $29,000 worth of commission is a major issue. And the problem is a lot of brokers do that. So what I'm telling you, I don't care how experienced of a buyer, I don't care if you're doing a commercial deal, you're buying an apartment building, a commercial piece of land, you're buying a house, forex, I don't care what it is. If you're going to change in the front page of a contract, do not write it on an addendum, do a whole new front page. And you basically tell your broker that they may hem and haw, write in an addendum, and then no, new front page on because you don't want to get screwed. And essentially what you can do is you can cross out page and add it, but your contract, because the sailor that works in the mortgage brokers can tell you to throw out. So just do a whole new front page. Everyone signs it. Yeah, it'll be a whole new contract essentially, but at least you're good to go and you're scored away legally. And also too, as a real estate agent, you're scored away legally. There are plenty of times you can add an addendum to a contract and just basically add it to blanket. Go ahead, it's lined or unlined. Usually they're lined, and you go ahead and you can write it up. But if it's a page and you're making a change of any type, do a new contract for the page. You can do that. All the other pages say the same, or just do a whole new contract for everything for the first 3 or 4 or 5, 6 pages, depending on what multiple services you're in. But this is a big problem today with real estate agents and real estate agents basically that about like that. But you got to remember, this was 95, 25 years old. I've been in real estate business 6 months. I've been kicking ass on the phone prospect every day, even though I had 2 other part-time jobs, which I'm all totally for. If you're a real estate agent, you have another job, full-time job, part-time job, do it. You can't prospect like you used to in 2001 with the FTC, but that's okay because you can still prospect and do other stuff. One day I'm going to go over a lot of prospecting ways. When good prospector, Tom Ferry organization, MikeFerry.com, Mike Ferry organization, Haas Pratt. Right now, those are less prospecting for phone stuff because there's still a ton of stuff you can prospect for. By referral only, they don't do phone prospect, but they've got other prospecting tools as far as that. He's got a whole real estate part. Since you've been in the industry, training people for a long time, he used to go to buy referral only, and then Joe Stump used to do his main events. So just don't be afraid to look at DeanJackson.com. And I have no problem getting this information out because all these people are scoring. So back to the contracts. So the thing is, I got totally hosed on that. Why I'm telling you this is a lot of people just don't talk about any of this, and so it's kind of a weird deal. Oh, sorry about that. I'm trying to correct something on my phone. Anyways, so a lot of people don't talk about contracts and the different versions of stuff you can do and can't do. That's why I always keep saying, if you need a real, don't be afraid to go get one. Take a look at it. If you need a real estate attorney, may need to add an addendum for you on the contract, do it. Now, you don't want to kill the deal, but if you don't feel safe with your agent, you don't think they're knowledgeable enough, which most aren't. Even the ones that say they do a lot of deals a year, a lot of them they do, and a lot of them don't know contracts from the hole in the ground. I mean, they just don't. they can go through when you're sitting or when you're basically signing the purchase sale agreement to buy property. A lot of times you're so tired from your day, you're working, 10, 12 hours a day, you got all this stuff going in your life, a lot of time to read everything. This is why when I meet a buyer, I always give them a general, basically, contract with most of the addendums attached, so they can go through and read it prior. And a lot of them will look, they can write it down, and you can give them the answers to it. Well, the agents don't give them this, and that's part of the processing in the beginning. And a lot of times, you don't get the stuff, so you don't know what the hell you're doing. So, anyways, I'm a big real estate agent. You should be doing this. Anyways, it's a part of your process guide and checklist that you should have. There's tons of places you can get checklists. A lot of the major companies might have. You may create your own checklist, but this goes back to as far as making that happen. Now, when I did the checklist, a lot of times I had the buyer sell it, even seller sign it to let you know that I do is I'll send them an email update to checklist. Now, this goes back to the 8 profit activators and ilovemarketing.com. Dean Jackson just gave me sent an email like he sends out to a zillion people, and they were talking about activator 4. So when you look at this, because this goes back to your looking at it as basically a buyer or seller, you go back to contractual stuff, so you know what's going on. Same thing when you look at the first 4 pages of the contract. There's a lot of stuff. Some multiples have 3, 4, 5, 6 pages in the first few pages, and then you're going to have an inspection addendum clause, your financing addendum clause. There could be a whole host of other stuff. Your agency addendum might have an NDA attached to it or not. Hopefully not. You can sign an NDA if I were you. If the broker's not confident enough and has you sign one, don't do it. Commercial, they're going to have you do it. I'm just letting you know, you're doing a commercial deal. I didn't have them do it because I never had any problems with that. Buyers always trusted me. So, but commercial, they're going to have you sign it. About if you take 100, probably all 100 would have you sign it because they get freaked out. It was a property and they're going to lose a deal. And contract sees all the addendums that they might add, the other environmental addendums or addendums they might add to it. You may have a radon addendum. You may have a utilities addendum. You may have addendums for when they clear out. There may be a specific item for a mission addendum. There's all these different, the multiple listing services in Washington State, which is pretty much all on one, except for a couple areas. It basically has a lot. Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona. Actually, Arizona's got some pretty high-speed stuff in theirs. They're kind of further ahead than most of the nation. But they got all the stuff and addendums, and you're going to pick and choose what you need. But the addendums, you need to go through and read it. You have to be able to convey to a buyer when they do it. The multiple services, they talk about, not really when they teach it, and it's really lame. It's just 3-hour class. It's stupid. Most brokers don't hold it. They may go over a few different things individually. Most of the brokers, they don't have an assistant broker doing it, working in the office, maybe 70, 80 agents. Some do, some don't. There are a lot of variables in it, but most of the brokers are competent. The designated broker's office for that. I'm telling you this as a buyer. I'm telling you this as a seller. I'm telling you this as a real estate agent. You can learn this stuff, so you know what's going on. Cardone was talking about some of it the other day. Broadcast that he had, because I watch his broadcast every Monday, and he's got one tonight. He'll come on for his real estate coaching club. He'll talk about it, some contractual stuff, because he just deals with commercial, so it's a bit different. Commercial is a lot more brutal. Residential, you have more ways to get out of a deal. In commercial, it's not that way. Commercial, and any addendum that you add to any deal, I don't care if it's residential or commercial, change. But as you go through the stipulations in the deal, there's a time clock for response. It could be 24 hours, it could be 40 times, it could be extended out. There's a financing clock on the addendum, which is important. There's a title one, and those things are going to be in the front page. Another thing too, on the title, is that you're going to have to put this title add-on there. Basically, what it is, it's essentially it talks about the property. It's basically a title, basically a title add-on, where basically you're going to talk about it, and it's going to give you basically a title, basically name. That's pretty much what it is, and that title name essentially goes on your purchase and sale agreement. It'll be on the front page. So it'll say add at basically Garden Grove, lot 15, designate 241, whatever. And it varies from state to state, and they all have their own way. It's pretty much across the country. You're going to have it on escrow. A lot of times in the contract, the listing agents have already pulled the title already, a preliminary title. Just go get to pick the escrow. Really not that big a deal. Sometimes the seller's agent will get kind of crazy because they're trying to brown nose the title rep to give them more money or whatever. Washington State, you can't do the stuff you used to do. You can't either. California's kind of sits on the fence. A lot of states, a lot of times the title reps will give the agents a lot of stuff. They get a lot of business. But contractually, it's on there. Usually, I always went with the seller, whatever the seller's agent picked for title. I went on there. It was in the contract. They already had the title. Makes life easier. Escrow, sometimes I went with there. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I got into squawks with the agent who's going to use their ego and trying to think they're all hardcore when I've done deals than they ever had. And I was a mortgage broker 1,000 times more than they do on their best day. I remember one time I got into an agent one time, basically doing a deal, and the agent was supposed to be hot and heavy. They only did 100 deals a year, 110 a year. It's nothing. I blew them out of the water every day. They thought they were all hot because they're number one in their office or up in their company, blah, blah. So what? Means nothing to me. I had my essentially grow, and we went squabble back and forth, and then the seller went back and forth on it, and the seller's agent was being complete jerk about it. But it happens. So, but on back on the contractual thing, when I got fired, it was because my lawyer gave me bad information, and we put something on there on the front page of the contract when I should have wrote a whole new one. It was about a $3,000 basically credit that the seller was going to give FH, and basically got screwed for it. So I lost about $30,000 in commission, and basically I got fired from this company. And they threatened to take me to the state and all this. But the thing is, later on, when I consulted with an attorney, I could have screwed the managing broker and the owner of the company, which I won't mention because he's passed away now. So is the old managing broker. I really screwed them. And the agent now, who used to be an administrative assistant, I could have screwed her too. I could have sued them all, and my lawyer would have done it on a contingency. I could destroy them, and I could have went after the sellers too. I would have destroyed them too. You know, this was a long time ago. This was and this happened in 95 December when they got fired in January. It was like a month after that I got picked up in another company, and I only stayed there for 6 months before I bailed and started mortgages and really getting into the high-speed stuff and went to 100% shop. If you're a real estate agent, go to 100% independent. Don't go to one of these big brokerages because the fees aren't worth it. And so back to the stuff, as I'm putting all this different stuff out there for you guys to think about, is that the contracts, there's a lot of stuff in there. Don't feel comfortable, get a real estate attorney. I've had clients in the past, and I gave them the whole entire purchase and sale agreement, chunk of it, the important stuff. They'd go to an attorney and consult with it, and actually that was the best thing, really knowledgeable. Then they ended up doing more deals because they weren't as scared, because they already knew the loss. It's easy for me to write the stuff up, get the earnings, get it scored away, sign off on it, scan it, send it to the other agent, boom, deal done. So basically that's a way, because it builds a comfort level, because you're providing a service to the buyer. Even the listing agent, there still is not as much stuff on a listing agent addendum when you're in the listing agent agreement with basically there's still a bunch of stuff on there. There are some addendums, some agency addendums, some other addendums as far as the title issues, or if you're doing option to buy or land contract. There's all kinds of stuff, but there's not as many as on a listing agreement as there are on a purchase and sale agreement. And so there's not as many outs as there used to be on the tax. One thing is the multiple listing service across the U.S. have kind of gone onto that. So there's a lot less outs than there used to be. And it's a problem. I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about 4 months about it. And so that's, one of those things where things have changed. A lot of times people use inspections as a way out, which you can use. Sometimes you'll find a few things wrong with it in there. The seller doesn't want to figure out. So a lot of places in California, this is becoming a major issue as far as that goes. Washington, Idaho, yeah, these are becoming major problems. There's lawsuits over it. But in the end, what will happen is that you, as a seller, basically there'll be some different stuff you can agree to do it. You can financially form away if you don't want to do it, or you just don't do contracts out. It's easier for your seller, just sign the contract, get them out of there. Even though they always say the first buyer, maybe your best buyer, yes and no on that one forward, because at the price at that time, if it sits long enough, you're gonna have to reduce the price, but it's just the way it goes. But contractually, sometimes it's easier just in a hot market and get the next one in. So as a contractually, these are just different things that you have to look at as a buyer and a seller. So I just want you to be cognizant of that when you're doing it, especially right now, when you're doing like a for sale by owner. If you're a buyer, make sure you have an attorney write it up, or you have a highly competent agent write it. Remember, as that said, you're going to have to pay that agent, because most of the time the sellers won't. Sometimes you get a seller will do it. Most of the time they don't. But most of the time, like say, if you're doing it for sale by owner, get a lawyer to write. You want to take the real estate agent out of it. If you do the real estate agent, they may do a set fee, doing the paperwork and all the other stuff attached with it, or maybe a commission, 2.5%, 3%, whatever. Either way, it's not a bad way to go. Having the lawyer do it isn't the way to go too. So you have your lawyer right there. They can write it up. They can do escrow and all that. Get real estate title and escrow pick. Real estate attorney will help write all the contractual stuff up and represent. You just got to remember that turnovers, so you have to be cognizant of that. I know a lot of commercial agents in Seattle. It's a high-profile city, and it moves fast. And I know a lot of agents that only do commercial, and there's gonna be deal killers, and they have to stay on to get the stuff out. Grant Cardone talks about it. Emery talked ago in a broadcast. Lawyers, when he picks a lawyer, he wants one that's get the deal, not kill the deal. So you can look at it depending on what kind of property you get, residential or commercial. These are things to think about when doing deals, and you just need to be comfortable as far as that goes. And like I said before, make sure your financing is in place. If you're a buyer, you have it done. Get your pre-approval letter or certificate or whatever stupid thing that the mortgage broker is going to send out. Each company is different. Remember, most mortgage brokers companies are usually under 10 people. Don't go to a bank. Banks are not very good. The rates are the same with a mortgage broker. They can usually get you a better rate. There are times if you're a profile, you're a bank, and they already have all your info, yeah, they can give you a rate, but it's not going to be much lower. Eighth of a point, quarter point tops. But go to a mortgage broker because it's tough. But make sure you get a pre-approval letter. Attach that. Sometimes attach it to the contract. Sometimes that the mortgage broker is going through holdings or whatever they're going. They'll tell them whether they add it or not, and the mortgage broker is going to know anyways. So these are things about the appraisal addendum. Got to look at that too, because that's going to be attached to purchase and sale, and that can over. It's just depending on how he comes in. Right now, it's pretty easy to do an appraisal in a lot of markets because the real estate's so high. But once this bubble bursts here pretty soon, it's all going to change back to like where he had a hard time getting the appraisals, because a lot of the prime, non-prime now is going to get blown out of the water. Of course, it's just a matter of time because of the inflationary rates are going to go up. Be prepare for that. The rates, everyone right now, because you got low rate, but that's going to change. Like when I started in 95, rates are running on a good day, for just basically a residential deal, running anywhere from 7.5% to 8.5%, and that's on a conventional loan. Doing the 0 day, you might get 8, 9, 10% in the first. You may get 12, 13, 14, 15, 16% on the second, or you might put 5% down, 3% down. These are basically alternate non-conforming loans, or the subprime loans, non-prime, and back then that's just the way it was, and you just dealt with it as the rates dropped here into the market. Right now, the rates are artificially low, and so since they are, you can totally work it. Especially if you're an investor, you can totally work it. But it goes back to what I was saying before, the contracts. Make sure you study them, you get them. It's if you can ask your agent to give you, basically just have them look at a bunch of addendums, the front page, go through it, or look at it and get familiar with it. I think it's an important thing as you are basically kind of thing, so to speak. And so I'm just trying to make sure that you guys know what's going on as far as that goes, because it's important to understand that the contracts you're in, and if they're not written up right, you're screwed. It's not even the addendums. There's a bunch of stuff that can be added on, that you can add anything you want. How the addendums are written, basically, the real estate agent has to be careful because they're not an attorney and states the multiple language. Remember, those contracts are the brokerages that belong to the Multiple Listing Association. Those contracts are not for the real estate agents. Okay, that's who they protect. Even if you're a buyer or a seller, they don't protect you at all. They only protect the brokerages. So this is why I've been through the legal ramp stuff. I'm not going to lie about it, because like I said before, now I'm streaming to Facebook and YouTube. But if you look at the ones on YouTube, yeah, I've for, and basically a real estate agent and mortgage broker that's a lot of deals like I have, they're going to have some dirt. And actually, that's the agent you want to work with, because you know what the hell they're doing, because they understand contract law. And trust me, it's a learning experience because of all the money you have to fork out of your pocket for the attorneys. Been there, done that. So if you got an agent, so what? They've got a couple complaints, so what? At least that agent, they know what they're doing, and they know where areas they can press it and to put together a deal. If you have an agent that's all polished white, and I mean that they're basically nothing's wrong, never had a complaint anywhere, blah, 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 you got to get a question when you want to work with that agent. They only do what I call spit shine type of deals, and that's pretty much it. And a lot of times they really don't know what the hell they're. I know, because I've dealt with this a lot. Seattle, you see this all the time. And it's just one of these things where you're looking at it, and the agent, yeah, they've done some deals, but if they've never been on anything, you got a problem. There was one agent in Seattle a few years ago, got totally ramrodded on a deal. She was in the press every day, and she was doing her job. And I won't say the company or name. I know her because I did some around for over 25 years, and she does a lot of deals. She had probably 170 deals a year, easy. She does a lot of referral, but she scored away. Yeah, she's got some dirt on her stuff. She almost lost her license, and she got suspended for a little while. But she's a good agent. She knows what she's doing, and it was totally bogus, but it happens. But she knows about the contracts and how they work. She knows how to write the addendums up. A lot of times, this is where a lot of times agents will get into trouble because they'll write them and they don't write the terms right, and they just don't do the addendums right when they add it to the purchase and sale agreement. It's also you can screw up your financing. So you have to factor all the stuff in. Basically, a buyer, a seller, and if you're a real estate agent, mortgage broker a little bit, but mortgage broker because they're gathering the info. But as a real estate agent, you need to factor. You got to factor this in too. So if you're a buyer writing up a deal, they may have a lawnmower you want. They may want this lights they have in the house, stuff like that. Contract, they may get it rejected. As long as it's written properly in the contract, you're good to go. If you're writing up a note and you're doing a promissory note to remember, every county, a lot of agents don't even know this because they don't come back because it's starting to, is that when you're writing up a promissory note, or you're writing another separate note because you're buying, basically sellers doing a contract carryback for, let's say, %, it has to be written up on a certain type of promissory note. It has to be indented properly, the tops, the bottoms, the sides. It all has to be written a certain way, and it has to confide with the county. Okay, and a lot of people don't know this. If you have a escrow agent, a limited practice officer, knows what the hell they're doing, that you've worked with, will tell you this. The one that you have for the multiple listing service isn't going to be right. They're going to have to redo it at escrow, and that's basically what you call your escrow agent and get it done, or title with your escrow agent there and get it done prior. And so you have the correct one already set up. They can email it to you. You can get it done. Buying doing a seller carry, seller contract, but the seller contract partial, and that's a whole completely different deal. Let's talk if you're moving a note. This is all contractual. If you're moving a note, one day I'll get into this really hard, like I do with the seller carrybacks. Okay, because what happens, you do a carryback, you can move that note to another property of equal value, and I've done multiple times, done it on commercial deals, rental, and you can do it, and basically you can go ahead and buy this, refinance out. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. Houses where I've got it, move the notes, fix up, refinance it, like Grant Cardone was talking about. Juices that go up to 90%, still run it out, blah 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 blah. Years, and I'll refinance the other property, pay up, or I'll get the note, attach it back because the value's got up in the other property, take that note off the other property and resell that property and still make a profit. So I do this stuff all the time. One day I'll get more core into that because it's a different kind of contractual deal, and there's a lot of stuff. But since I'm talking about types of contracts, notes, you need to wait at least 7 days. I would tell you 8 days before you go ahead, and after you get a property, to move any notes. Make sure if you buy a property and you have a note, you're going to move it on a deal, wait 8 days until after. Contact your attorney. After you do it, if you got a real estate attorney, have them move the note for you, but wait at least 8 to 10 days. Say if I know somebody in Seattle that got nailed for that one day, I'll tell the story on that one. And I've talked about it a little bit before. I'll get into more detail about it. Just think about the stuff, contracts. Don't be afraid. If you need a real estate, talk to one. To do it, talk to multiple real estate attorneys if you have to. Just make sure you're good. Make sure you have a real estate agent. The real estate agent's got some dirt on them. That's okay, because that real estate agent's going to know contract. They're going to understand finance. Like I said, a lot of agents don't know anything. They barely know how to market. There's barely know how to do a lot of stuff because they have such bad across the real estate spectrum. I don't care how houses or an independent, it's everywhere. And I've seen it. Even where I'm at in Missouri, I've seen a lot of stupid stuff that I've seen already. It's unbelievable, some of the stuff I've seen. I'm surprised the agents have a license. But anyways, so basically, if you got any questions, go to nicksforecast@gmail.com. It's in the description. If you want questions, you want to get financing for loans, in other words, for mortgages for real estate, or if you want to, I have a new loan that comes out, it's a new loan. They can do a no doc flip and fix up to 90% LTV. Find this anywhere. They do this for high-end housing, you get $1 million plus, or they do it for I've got stated commercial, basically goes up to 8% LTV, might go 85. Also to the stated deal, it's a non-owner occupied. You can't use owner occupied, though, otherwise they'll call your loan. Non-owner occupied, There's another stock that I've got up that'll go up to about 90%. LTV. I mean, these are just some. I've got one in California under there that score 500. If you live in California, foreclosure bailouts. They can do no doc stated. They can do all kinds of cool stuff. Zero down loans. There are zero down loans out there available. You can take advantage of. You have 5%. The VA loans are okay if you're a veteran, but there are better loans out there, but they're okay because they're zero down. The FHA loans are okay. You have the appraisal. Appraisal is really not a big deal because it's not an inspection. It's just VA wants to insure their loan. And then, but I can use a 3% fee and some other loans, which are a better deal. So, anyways, I'm just kind of sorry, business stuff. Anyway, so I'm just kind of giving you the deal. Basically, I'm going to build this website for next forecast on leasefundsusa.com, and there's going to be proof of funds .net, which are going to be total different sites. Right now, I'm just using basically Prime Capital Management, inc.com. If you have any questions, you want to look at financing, go there. We have business financing, factoring loans, all these different type of loans for basically commercial real estate. There's a lot of stuff we've got. We don't do any residential because I just haven't decided. I just don't need to get a residential license anymore. So, because I do a bunch of other funding stuff that Fidelity doesn't concern, someone else can do it, or you get somebody else. But I've got a lot of programs you can't get on the commercial real estate side, the business funding side, basically the factoring loans. Also, too, proof of funds we do. That's a real special seasoned investor, and that's from ball wax. And also, too, we have a special program that I really won't get into. You have to be seasoned investor. You have to have over basically $1 million liquids viable. This is for the real high speed stuff. Anyway, so forecast@gmail.com. You guys have a good day. And you got questions, get a hold of me. And I'll go ahead and try to get you squared away and answer them. All right. Have a good day.